Commissioner Crowley,
Present.
and Commissioner Skidmore.
Present.
I'd like to welcome everyone here in the audience as well as anyone watching or listening at home. We will begin today's meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance followed by the invocation by Pastor Dakota Smith from Ottawa Bible Church.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is standing one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everyone, thanks for having me again today. Just wanted to provide a verse that was on my heart this morning from Proverbs 14:29. It says, "He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts foolishness." And I think there's something about being in control of ourselves that allows us to remain objective, factual, logical. There's something about being quick-tempered, giving ourselves away, being reactive and emotional that gives way to foolishness. And so maybe just a general principle of encouragement for all of us. It's easy to let ourselves go, but when we keep our gravity, that leads to decisions made out of wisdom. So let me pray for us and pray for your meeting today. God, thank you so much that you love us. Who were we that you would love us? It's so awesome. Thank you that we are valuable to you, valuable on your sight. You care about people. Thank you for our leadership here within our town. Thank you for the hard work put into it. Thank you for the citizens of our community. Thank you for all that's going to take place here today. Please grant us wisdom. Help us to love each other and think clearly. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pastor. We will move on to public comments. Do we have any registered?
We have none registered.
Going to start with our appointments, proclamations, recognitions, nominations, and public hearings. First, we're going to recognize Agnes Lambert, winner of the 2025 League of Kansas Municipalities Essay Contest. I will go ahead and come on up if you want. You can sit or you can stand, whatever you want to do. Agnes was the Southeast Regional winner and the overall winner. Is that correct? Okay. And I'm going to read her essay real quick here, just so that way we all know. But it's also published in the journal as well. So when you think of your local government, what do you think about? We think about streets and parks, but do you think about your small municipal airport? Kansas has 132 public use airports, and the one in my hometown is a lot of fun to visit. I live in Ottawa, Kansas, and go to the Ottawa, Kansas airport to do lots of different things. Our local airport has an airport fun day every fall. All of the local city and county services come out and have things for us to look at. The fire department comes out and has their trucks stopped and their ladders as high as they can go, and we can talk to the firefighters. The water filtration plant came out and gave everyone pop-its if they could answer questions. Plus, the police and sheriff are there with their cars and give out stickers. If you get there early enough, you can sign up for a free airplane ride, and sometimes there's a helicopter. It's a lot of fun to ride in a small plane and see your house from the sky. They have games and other things to do while you wait to ride. Sometimes they have face painting and funnel cake. The local Aviation Explorers Club serves breakfast in the morning and lunch in the afternoon of Airport Fun Day. This is a fundraiser for the members of the club. They meet at the airport every other week. Once a month, they have a fly-in breakfast. The kids that help with these fundraisers earn time flying a plane to get their actual pilot's license. This is one of the many things that happens at the airport to help the community. This week, our airport had a celebration for a local man, Chuck LeMaster, who was awarded the Wright Brothers Master Pilot designation. He has been flying for over 80 years and had an amazing career. The airport had a big ceremony and lunch for him, and close to 100 people came out to celebrate. One of the other things I've seen at the Ottawa airport was the Kansas City Aerobatic Club has their practice sessions at our local airport. It is really cool to watch the planes do all kinds of tricks while they fly in the air. Pilots and planes from all over the country to practice before they competed in national aerobatic competition in Salina, Kansas. Our local airport is a lot of fun for the kids in the community and has the Aviation Explorers Club to teach us to fly. But adults use it every day too. Hundreds of planes fly in and out. Our runway is even long enough for a jet to land. This local government service helps out our community. Our local airport is a great place. And that was a very good essay, Agnes. And you, like I said, won the Southeast Regional Award and the overall. winter award, and are you hoping to be a pilot, or are you just do this for fun?
I kind of wish to fly a plane, at least get a license for it.
Yeah, very cool. Well, congratulations on your awards, and we'll get a picture over here by the flag, if that's okay. Thank you, and congratulations.
If we had any state award winners, we get the regional winners here, but we've had a state winner here, so I say, and also I just want to say I've had her in some of my substitute teaching classes, and so this is an exemplary student. I wish I had more like her, so I'm not surprised a bit that you won this, but congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda, which includes minutes from May 7th, 2025 regular meeting and the agenda approval. Have a motion.
Motion approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I'd like to give the commissioners a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Seeing and hearing none, we will skip over unfinished business. And we will move on to item 11A.
Board of Zoning Appeals interview, Daniel White.
We have Daniel White here who applied for this open position. If you want to come on up to the chairs,
Sit down or?
you can sit down, please.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Make yourself comfortable. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you would like to serve on this?
I'm Daniel White. I'm guessing a lot of you guys have known if I'm a member or two of mine, since I have a huge family. As from a reason why, I've been in real estate for 3 years. I've grown up in Ottawa for 22 years. I've been involved with OMA. I've been involved with the local homeless coalition. I've been involved with LOH, and I would like to continue to grow my community interactions.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We will have Commissioner Crowley ask the next question.
Daniel, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, yeah.
Good, good. Hey, so in here you wrote, been paying a lot of close attention to what's happening in the city of Ottawa as well as the county, and you believe your experience can help Ottawa reach the goals. Tell us a little bit about your experience and how you think that experience can reach those goals.
So one thing that I know that both the city and the county are both in the process of doing is building their comprehensive plan. And I know that the city would like to grow, and the way that they've done in the past is they've been growing towards the south end of town. Some of the experiences that I bring to the table is I've been in real estate for the last 3 years. I've been in different positions with LOH. I've been a Army sergeant for the last 6 or 7 years. I've worked with Bert Nash on the assertive community team for the last 5 years, and those three positions all have required me to think outside the box, looking for solutions that normally you might not think of because they're not exactly your everyday scenarios.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton.
Thank you for being here. As you kind of mentioned, are we reaching kind of the goals in the long future and part of the comp plan? What changes or improvements, kind of just even initially off the cuff, would you potentially recommend for the city of Ottawa?
One thing that I think would be beneficial would to have more housing. I think the biggest reason for more housing is I noticed that Ottawa keeps wanting to bring in more businesses, but one barrier that we keep facing is there's not enough housing for new employees that will be brought into town.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Skidmore.
Sure. So, yeah, welcome here, Dan. Tell me about your work again. You get to work for now. Tell me about your work a bit and how those experiences can help you in this particular.
So with Bert Nash, I work with a sort of community treatment team and the clients that I get are the people who have failed out of your regular treatment. And so pretty much every day is a new day trying to figure out how are we going to accomplish the variety of different goals that they have set themselves? How am I going to hold them accountable? And because of their different mental health illnesses, some days I end up just getting yelled at. Sometimes they decide to fight me all day. But I try my best to keep working with them to reach their end goal.
You make a great city commissioner, maybe. Anyway. Thank you, Dan.
Does anyone else have any further questions for Daniel?
Kind of with your experience for the increase in housing, what role do you see kind of the Board of Zoning Appeals serving the city?
I think the biggest thing will be trying to figure out what land would be better used for residential rather than agricultural, and from there, to what land would then be allotted to commercial use. And so I think once as Ottawa really begins growing and more businesses start to setting up shop on the south end of town, there will be more discussions between you guys, between the planning and zoning board. And of course, from there, people will have their own opinions, so.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming in, Daniel. We will discuss this later on in the meeting, and then someone will be reaching out to you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to item 11.
Agreement for engineering service, 15th and Main Street traffic signal.
Approves agreement with Trans Systems for engineering services to support signal replacement at 15th and Main Street, enhancing safety and traffic flow. And we have Director Sneven here with us.
Afternoon,
Hello.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners. This item for approval of a professional services agreement with Trans Systems to support the upcoming construction phase of the 15th and Main traffic signal replacement project. This is a major CIP project aimed at improving one of the busiest and most outdated intersections in Ottawa. And today with us, we have Chad Banka with Trans Systems, as well as Ed Thompson with the Utilities Department Electrical Distribution Team. Staff recommends approval of the agreement with Trans Systems for construction-related engineering services. Their role will include bid prep, contractor coordination, and part-time inspection support during the construction. The background on this project stems from the need to upgrade an aging traffic signals, at 15th and Main. The current system is outdated, increasingly unreliable, as within the last week, and not ADA compliant. It also lacks pedestrian-friendly features and turn phasing, which creates safety issues for everyone using the intersection. The project has been prioritized in our adopted 24 to 28 capital improvement plan and aligns with long-range goals in 2014 Connecting Ottawa Transportation Plan and the 2011 Electric System Master Plan. It's a multifaceted improvement addressing traffic flow, pedestrian safety, and electrical reliability all in one location. In 2023, the city partnered with Trans Systems for the signal design phase, which is now complete. This current agreement covers the bid and construction phase of this project. It ensures continuity by keeping the same firm involved from design through completion. It's important to note that the contract does not include design work. That work was done last year. This scope covers bid prep, assisting with bid letting and addenda, and overseeing construction activity. Trans-System will help ensure the project is built according to specs, with part-time inspections and documentation through closeout. As you can see here on the table, shows where we're at in the milestone, from finalizing documents and advertising for bids, the construction schedule, and project completion. Keeping Trans-Systems on board helps us stay on track and reduces the learning curve that often comes with transitioning from engineers between phases. This agreement totals $53,600 and will be covered under the existing $575,000 CIP project budget. Legal review has already been completed and no additional budget action is needed. At this time, staff recommends the commission approve the agreement with Trans-Systems and authorize the city manager to move forward with contract execution and project implementation. I will be here for any questions, as well as Chad and or Ed.
Do you have any questions?
If we don't do this, what are we going to be looking? System and I know, I think this is one of the busiest intersections in town. I mentioned the one the town, but I know accidents are, you see that seem more facilitation too, I suppose. Just want to see the same, or what can you convince me that we need to proceed?
I think continued failures with the system. I mean, the wiring, the electronics within the system are hard to troubleshoot. It's been a headache for staff. Multiple times they have to go out and reset all the controls on the inner workings of the controllers themselves. And the technology is just extremely outdated. And it is just one of many.
Oh, yeah, in our current system, we don't have to know this current system is right now.
Our best guess is when that road was put in, probably shortly after, so you're looking at 78, I think is what we determined, somewhere in there.
People in this room were not born there. And one thing to note is too, is there's not going to be a complete intersection shutdown. There's going to be lane closures here and there, but we're not going to have the entire intersection shut down at one time during this process. And we're talking everything from crosswalks, curbs, signals, poles, you name it. All four sides of the intersection is going to be taken care of.
On your timeline, what were the dates for construction? Okay.
Kind of depends on the letting of the project, and I can let Chad speak to, timeline that he's used to seeing from the time the bid's awarded to project completion, if you have that. Yes, you meant to leave it.
Yeah, so we'll put together the contract documents. From there. We could set a early start date and a late start date. Establish that with bidding documents. We will let this out for advertisement, so we send it out to local contractors, ones that do this typical work, including plan rooms that local contractors will get those dated. Typically what we see is there's an advertisement period of about 30 days, so that gives the contractor the ability to get his prices from his vendors, and establish those items to put together a bid. After 30 days, then we will do a public opening, which others are invited if we could do that. Once that happens, the city, of course, to do the final contract between the contractor and the city, and then begin. Working with Ed, there's a possibility. So the longest
duration on this is actually the ordering of the traffic signal poles. So typically right now, we're seeing that about 18 weeks, once the order is placed for them to be delivered. And so we have an opportunity here to, you guys proceed forward with this, we'll possibly purchase them earlier. And we would be able to reduce the amount of work we get out there. Once the contractor were able to start. hopefully, go quick.
One thing I would just like to, I mean, all know about it, but just be cognizant of is the car show. Obviously, with the increased traffic in town, it would probably be unfortunate to have a lane closure at a very busy intersection during that time. So I'm not sure if it's something we can kind of work around, but hopefully maybe our timeline will be fine and we'll be right before that or something.
Let's not confuse anybody here. We're only discussing the engineering services.
Yep.
Okay, we're not having a discussion, and yeah, we're not having a discussion about that project itself at this point.
Not at this point.
Okay, yeah, we were getting a little in the
Yeah.
weeds there, and I wanted to make sure. Have we worked with Trans Systems before on anything?
Yes.
And I know Chad's sitting there, so you won't want to say anything negative, but how'd that go?
Yeah, they did engineering on all this process, and I think I'm the only one left that was involved in that, so. But it went well, and that was part of the reason that it was brought, or came to this point where we're having them lead the project and the inspections, just because, you know, more knowledge and better use of our funds for them to check it out, make sure everything's right.
Thank you.
And this falls right into line with our other utilities. Anytime we have a water project, sewer project of this magnitude and price, the engineer are usually the folks that do the letting and bid opening and all that for us as a part of the contract that we have with them.
So does Trans Systems take on any liability if they inspect something and it's not up to par and we get, some sort of a issue with the system later on?
A fairly complicated question that is fact specific based on what happened. But I will tell you that this contract does not have a limitation of liability provision.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Do you, Director Sneeden, you had talked about ADA and kind of doing that at the intersection. Just thinking the west side, on the north corner, you've got kind of almost mini retaining walls for Dairy Queen there. Is that corner also going to be try to connect it over towards the trail? Or how far out from the true intersection does the ADA portion kind of go? Thinking, because there's not a sidewalk on 15th on the north side abutting Dairy Queen.
The way I read the plans, it's the actual, probably within 10 foot of the intersection itself. So every corner, 10 foot each direction would be the crosswalks and all that.
And do you know, was there a plan to, because obviously we're pretty close to that sidewalk, try to get, or close to that parking lot, try to get get a sidewalk on that north side of 15th? Because I know right there is tight and you can go to the north along Main, but you can't go to the west along 15th on the north side of the right of way.
I think that we were talking about
The initial project, but
Yeah, it wasn't.
we can work that as secondary to
I know when Dennis and Michael were here, we were talking about that. That was one of the things that we talked about, was eventually trying to get a sidewalk through there. So I personally think it could go on either side of the road. It's just however we decide to do it eventually.
Yeah, I just know after school, I mean, we're nearing the end of school, but from the trail to 15th, there is still a lot of people who travel, but there's no real, so they're either in the road or kind of on the grass, and it's tight. And I just would like to at least think about kind of the future proofness of that corner towards there, so.
Take that into consideration for sure. Yeah.
And on the ADA, are we, I know we've got our accessibility advisory board, and there's a lot of options when it comes to crosswalks. Do they have sound? Is it just light? What kind of are those options? Do we have within that engineering what those things might be already kind of decided?
Yeah, so all the plans are completely done, municipal news have been, with you guys for a while. So everything will be updated to APS push button signals, which is required by the latest edition of the NTC. So, those would have push buttons, there's countdown, which shows not only the hand and the guy, but also countdown. All of those have the correct spacing, so I don't think they necessarily have to talk, but there will be associated with this. But yeah, everything meets current standards.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Director Sneedman? How would we like to proceed?
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion. We approve item 11B, yeah, on our agenda.
Okay, any further discussion? May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor is absent. Mayor Pro Tem
Commissioner
Clayton?
Kaler is present.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes. And I vote yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
And Mayor Allen?
And I vote yes, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will move on to item 11C.
Bid award sludge removal services.
This is the consideration of contract award for sludge removal and land application services at the water treatment plant. And we have Director Sneedman parked here for.
So this item is a recommendation to award the contract for sludge removal and land application services at our water treatment plant. It's a routine but essential part of maintaining long-term plant operations and regulatory compliance. And before I go any further, this is just for one pond, the North Pond that runs right along Beach Street there, located in the 300 block. Staff is recommending the low bidder, Sandy Land Environmental, for this project. Their proposal offered both competitive pricing and a well-structured work plan. Approval today would authorize contract execution and keep this work on schedule. This is a task we've historically done every 8 to 10 years, but thanks to some operational improvements at the water treatment plant in 2013, specifically removing the aluminum sulfate in our process, we significantly reduced the amount of sludge generation that takes place. That means we've been able to go over 10 years without full clean out. The bid opening was May 1st, 2025 at 2 p.m. Staff evaluated proposals from 4 firms using a 5-category scoring system. Technical approach, experience and references, cost, compliance and safety, and project timeline. Sandyland Environmental, based in Allen, Oklahoma, submitted the lowest bid at $180,000 and earned a score of 85. Their proposal offered a well-structured process and demonstrated a strong understanding of compliance, equipment use, and ergonomic application methods. And I will tell you, from reading the bids, they are the only one that I noticed referenced a landowner within our area that has had conversations with setting up the land application piece of it. Hodges Farm and Dredging had the highest overall score of 86 and brought over 3 decades of regional experience. Their price was slightly higher at $192,000, but they showcased robust capabilities and detailed planning. They are who the water plant used back in 2013. Nutrijack Systems out of Hudson, Iowa submitted a $197,750 turnkey bid. Their proposal was well documented and included full permitting, testing, and reporting, but their overall score of 80 reflected a slightly higher cost and less flexibility in their work plan. Their bid actually arrived on time and was not in our online bid opening. due to it was misplaced and rerouted in the mailroom to another department. Finally, Midwest Injection came in with the highest bid at $213,152 and scored 75. While their technical content was sound, it lacked the detail and the project adaptability shown by other firms. This project is fully budgeted in the Water Production Operating Fund. There's no financial change required. Once approved, the contract will be reviewed by legal to ensure it complies with procurement policies. We're asking the commission to approve the proposal from Sandyland Environmental and allow the city manager to finalize the paperwork. If the commission prefers, you can also defer to a future meeting, but staff believes we're ready to proceed. And I stand for any questions. Or sit. whichever.
We haven't used these folks before, but the reference came back.
References came back wonderful. Yes.
Thank you. Could you kind of explain, I saw on there that the Nutrajet was the only one that you said mentioned just turnkey permitting, testing, and final reporting. Do the other ones still do that, or would that be on us, or kind of what does that look like, or are all of these essentially still turnkey?
They all are turnkey. They all do the testing. It's just specifically mentioned in Nutraject. The other one's just slightly testing. They listed out not as specific
Okay,
as.
still through KDHE and
Yep,
all of the.
yep.
Any other questions? If we'd like to proceed.
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve item 11C on the agenda.
Second?
Like that. It's not like it's neat, so, right?
Right.
We could get shovels.
Do we have any further discussion? May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Crowley?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton?
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
And Mayor Allen?
And I vote yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move us on to item 11D.
Consider a resolution to amend the current Personnel Policy Handbook.
This proposes a resolution amending the current Personnel Policy Handbook with amendments to section 2.1, section 2.4, 4.8, 4.12, 511, 417, and 614 and 615, all which are listed in the agenda in further detail. And Director Stegman Jacobson is here to present.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. So the recommendation before you is to, again, to approve the resolution, making amendments to the City of Ottawa Personnel Policy. And the city staff conducted a review of a number of different policies related to compensation, benefit eligibility, our tuition reimbursement policy, which you did approve last year, an increase to $3,000 per applicant. Our travel policy, and which all would require amendments, additions and deletions from the existing personnel policy handbook. So those policies have been detailed in the memo for your review. Currently with the golf course, we do not have a tip policy, and determined that there's possibility that tips could be received by staff. And also, we also have another recreational facility, the OMA. And so Melanie and I worked to develop a policy that would allow the acceptance of tips, and they are taxable. So that was developed. We also recommended an amendment to section 2.1 pay periods, section 2.4 overtime pay, and section 4.0 holidays and holiday pay. And the amended policies before you in the redacted attachment in the packet will align our pay practices and policies to allow for hours worked and benefit hours reported in a pay period, which will count towards overtime. In addition, along that line, we reviewed the current policy we have in place, section 4.12, the group health, dental, and prescription plan drug coverage policy. Currently, it begins at 20 hours or more in our handbook, but we have recommended amending that policy so that aligns with benefit eligibility and federal requirements, and recommending that begin at 30 hours. So as I mentioned, the tuition reimbursement policy, we have amended it to increase to 3,000 instead of 1,500, which was in the handbook. And we added a few eligibility enhancements, such as accredited institution language and a tiered approach for reimbursement. And in addition, we have removed the section 4.17, the meals, section 1.4, travel and training pay policy, and section 6.15, travel and training expenses. And the existing policies related to travel in the handbook have not been comprehensive, and so those will transition to a administrative policy, pardon me. And I think that the governing body has received that policy previously for a trip to DC recently, but that will be distributed to those that travel on behalf of the organization for training and things of that nature.
Tuition, what's the total tuition? That's not like per year.
It's per year. So currently we have 2 employees that are enrolled in taking courses, and the total amount that they can apply for is $3,000 per year. Tuition, books, fees, and for this year, for 2025, our total budget is $15,000. For 26, the recommended budget is $17,000. Does that make sense? Okay.
On tuition reimbursement, some places have, and I don't know if we ever had this, a pass fail instead of, traditional grading A, B, C. I didn't see anything in there for that. Do we allow, if someone is attending somewhere and there's a course that's simply pass fail, not graded in like A, B, C fashion?
So this particular policy is related to college courses where they would receive a grade. So it doesn't encompass pass fail. I know when I was back in the day in the 80s, when I was going to Newman, I think I had a course that was like that. I think it was speed reading. But
those wouldn't be eligible.
No, not for this particular policy that's in place.
Thank you.
Mhm. As far as financial considerations, compensation and benefits are budgeted and paid from their respective fund. And we did have Blaine Finch, city attorney, review the policies that we revised and updated along, of course, with city manager. I'll stand for questions. Well, let me move on to the next slide. So it is recommended that the city commission deliberate and consider adoption of the resolution XI.D.1, and approve these amendments, to the City of Ottawa Personnel Policy Handbook. And today, take final action at the meeting today, or refer this item to a future meeting next week for continued deliberation and consideration. And I do have Melanie here, who is the co-author of the policies that we updated for questions. So, stand for questions.
Yeah, I guess did we include or have buy-in with the rest of the employees or representative thereof to kind of agree to this or make some suggestions, or how did we come up with these?
So, so we, so the tuition. Okay. So the tips, we visited with, I would imagine we visited with Rob, the golf pro and general manager about this, along with Tiffany Evans. And for that policy, and their department directors were involved in the discussion related to amending the overtime as it relates to holiday pay. Their statement. I know that we spoke about the amendment with city manager Silcott related, and Melanie, related to changes to the prescription dental and health coverage. For the last number of years, we have had part-time employees. We were not able to hire beyond 19 hours. There were some budgetary challenges. I'm not quite sure how to word that. And that was something that Melanie and I have spoken about for the last couple of years. And currently we only have one employee that is truly works in a part-time capacity. They would be grandfathered because they average between 25 and 30 hours a week. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think some of these enhancements are better. So I can see why
Right.
the rank and file would be opposed to this. How soon would this take effect? Do we have a date on that? Would this be immediate?
Immediate. So did you want?
Oh, I just.
Okay.
Investment.
All right.
And I guess we may find out soon over time, and tips may not be taxable. That depends on what Congress decides.
Right.
So there could be.
Right. I do have a couple of policies that are going to be coming, forthcoming about fleet and non-owned travel policies that are coming up soon. So we'll probably bundle all those together.
On the overtime section, benefit hours, is that sick, vacation, holiday, just anything?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Mayor, do you think this would be an item that we could put off for a week and have a discussion next week about?
That is exactly what I was thinking. I made a note that maybe we pulled this one over for a week just to read it, but also I would like to read it again. So if we could go ahead and hold this one off until next week and discuss it again.
The Jorgensen.
Yep, the pause. We'll do the pause.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to item 11E.
Fifth award for the 2025 street rehabilitation project.
Consideration of contract award for the city's annual street rehabilitation to improve roadway conditions and infrastructure longevity. And we have Director Welch here.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. We are back again to talk about our street rehabilitation program. Last week I was in here having a follow-up discussion about what our 5-year plan looks like. This is the step one in the 5-year program. So, a few weeks back, we were working with our, with VG Consultants and put together we sent out that first list that we had discussed a couple of different occasions. Sent that out for bid. We received bids back on May 8th. We had a couple of different companies bid on our chip and seal projects, 2 different companies to be exact. And then we had 5 companies bid on the mill and overlay projects that we put out there. I skipped over I didn't go in over, sorry. So the recommendation is that we're presenting this for the approval to proceed with these agreements. So we put out, in that bid, there were 9 different roads to be touched with a chip and seal preservation. Those roads being North Mulberry, North Street, South Lincoln, North King, North Sycamore, North Cleveland, Rockport, Avon, and Addison. So a section of each of those roads. And then the asphalt mill and overlay would be the stretch along 7th Street from Cedar to Cherry Street. And then the other stretch on 14th from Main Street to Cedar. Like I said, we had 2 different companies that bid on our chip and seal projects. The lower bid on those 2 projects come back at $121,491.45. And then the lowest bid on the mill and overlay project come in at $109,872.50. There were a couple of very competitive bids in that mill and overlay that you could see on the bid tabs that I provided in your packet. The company that won that we are recommending for the chip and seal is, make sure I'm telling you the right names, is Vance Brothers. The city has done a lot of work with Vance Brothers in the past. For several years, we've done work with Vance Brothers for our chip and seal treatments. The company that came in lowest on our mill and overlay project, like I said, it was very competitive, but the company that ended up winning that one was a company named Barkley Asphalt Company. They are from just on the Missouri side in the Kansas City area. I don't remember exactly the city name right off the top of my head, so I apologize for that. But our city engineer, we did our due diligence in looking into this company. We checked references, and all of the references came back outstanding. So with that, and as you see, the total come to $231,363.95, which was significantly less than what our engineer's estimate was, saving us by nearly $60,000.
Do you know where more of that savings was, in the chip and seal or the mill and overlay? On that 60,000 difference?
So the engineer's estimate on the chip seal was 148,000, and it came back at 121. And then the engineer's estimate on the mill and overlay was 142,000, and that one came in at
about the same one.
So it was pretty close to it.
I just didn't know if chip and seal was coming down because oil's coming down. If that contributed to some of the savings there.
I don't have an answer for that.
I had a citizen ask about why the city doesn't buy equipment needed for some of this work and city employees do this. I didn't really have an answer for him. Like, well, you gotta hire more employees, and then this isn't necessarily something you use year round, you gotta pay them. So the appropriate answer was better contract this out versus hire an environment.
At this point, where we sit right now, I think it probably makes more sense to contract this out. And you stated a couple of very good points right there. Another thing to keep in mind too is this is very specialized work. Our guys we'll just call him Jack of all trades, master of none. But, and I don't want that to sound wrong because our guys do really good work, but the folks that are doing this type of work, this is a specialty type of. So, in order to employ that type of specialty, it would be difficult to be able to meet those salaries.
And I know people in the past have asked why we don't use a local contractor like doing something, but if we ever did that, jeopardizing future bids from the low bidder that came in this particular situation. We wrestle with that sometimes to do that case as the taxpayer here, but at the same time, it's our fiduciary responsibility to take the best deal we can.
Yeah, and we looked into that. That was a reason we did the deep dive, our own due diligence on this company that we hadn't looked before, but you know, when their prices are coming in at the lowest price and everybody that we're speaking to is speaking really highly.
I think that Commissioner Skidmore is a good point to bring up. You know, you hate to do that. You hate to limit your field, you know, especially over $3,000 or, you know, it's a little less than $3,000 when, for lack of a better term, we're sending that money to Missouri. Where if it were to go to Kilo or someone else local, how much is spent at restaurant, like back into the community? And I know I try to preach like shopping local as much as possible. So it is a hard decision to not cut off a contractor who has a great bid, a good reputation for all your research, and have that. But in your kind of grading matrix, do you guys do something similar to kind of directors need than just, you know, they have scores essentially kind of how their bids look? Or is it really just kind of a simply cost saving, whatever comes in as the most appealing, and as long as we don't hear bad reviews from folks?
Yes, and making sure that everything that they sent back us, the reply to our bid meets those standards. So, you know, if they're not checking the boxes saying, yes, this is what we plan to do, this is the mix that we plan to use, et cetera, which would be essentially the matrix that you're talking about. We don't necessarily have that scoring system, but we're making sure that everything that they're saying is what we're asking.
Commissioner Clayton, it's just a staff recommendation that we take the other bid. We don't necessarily have to if you're passionate about the fact that it's only $3,000 difference. And I understand your point of, you know, a lot of that money that we give back, that we would pay to a local contractor would be spent locally. So it'd run back into, you know, generating revenue. That's certainly a discussion we could have.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know what the exact number is on that matrix for me of cost and benefit, but at $3,000, when we're in the realm of 112, 109, if they were in the 200, you know, if the difference was staggering, I think I could swallow that a whole lot easier than, you know, potentially $100,000 that, you know, obviously the Kilo family has been residents of the community for a long time, but how many do they employ who eat here, rent here, pay mortgages here, pay property taxes, and do that? And so, as much as I would hate to not go with lowest bid to save, I think, you know, to the residents of the community, I think I can, you know, kind of explain that, for lack of a better term, that we're spending $3,000 more, but it stays in town. And so that kind of for me would be the direction I would be leaning. You know, obviously the conversation with staff, if we've had issues with Kilo, if there's been you know, pauses for concern for potentially doing that, I would certainly be all ears.
This recommendation is based specifically off of these numbers because that's what our procurement policy states.
Okay.
So if
It's
the
your
commission,
prerogative.
if the commission decided that they would like to go with our local company, that's the direction that we would get.
And there was no concerns with Kilo's bid. I mean,
There was no
everything
concerns
looked-
with Kilos. Everything looked exactly like what we would have expected, and we've done work with Kilos
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
many years.
Director Wells, do you have the exact difference between the low bid and Kilo?
Yes.
Could you give us that number, please?
So the winning bid, the lowest bid was Barkley Asphalt Company at $109,872.50. Kilo Construction come in at $112,613.74.
So $2,741.
Thank you.
As well, I think, this is the start to a multi-million-dollar and large investment in the community into getting our roads where they need to be. So I do appreciate that we got bids from a lot of folks, because we will need that as we want to stay competitive. But I think I would lean towards going with Kilo for $2,700 more, to keep all of those funds kind of as they're here, or most of them, we should say. We don't know where all of them is, but most of those in town or in the area.
Oh, and I'd certainly like to hear the other commissioners, their opinions too. I don't disagree with you. I think it's a minimal difference between low bid and Kilos. We know what kind of work we're gonna get from Kilos, over the decades of work that they've done around our town. I worry, the only thing I worry about is what image this portrays, to future bids. Does somebody say, matter, even if I come in low, they're not gonna take my bid anyway. So I worry about that, image. But I know I feel comfortable, with making a decision, with Kilo too.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, in the future, if Barclay comes in with it, will they bid again if they get out in this case? Now, we're to explain to being that close for Little Cup, if it had been, 20,000 difference or something like that. It would be, but yeah, 2,700, that extra price we have to pay to.
I can tell you from a contractor's perspective that bids projects, that sometimes folks don't care about the low price, they care about what they're gonna get, quality that they're gonna get. So, I bid electrical projects all around for a lot of different people, and, there's a lot of times that I may get a bid just because of the work I've done for them before. Even though I wasn't the lowest, but they know that that's something that they don't have to worry about, and that they can move forward on to the next, project or whatever, so.
I would be in favor of using Kilo. I think it's a kind of a weird circumstance, I would say, with the bids being so close and the ability to use someone locally without much additional costs. So I would be in favor of that.
This is Commissioner Kaler. Is there any contingency in there? Like, is there any day difference? Is there any timeline difference? Is there any contingency funds in there? Like, it will not exceed this much, but it may be less than this. I'm just
As
trying
far
to
as
make
the
sure we're not
timeline
missing
goes,
anything.
there is a distinct deadline, and if whatever company that we go with doesn't reach that deadline, that they would, start to inherit, a penalty, essentially is what we would call that. But like I said, the contract went out and it was very specific, framing all of that stuff. What the timeline, our start line would be, what our hard deadline would be, keeping in mind that the car show would be, happening in September. So I don't know if that answered your question, Commissioner.
Oh, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yes, that answers my question. I appreciate that there's a timeline, but there's not a despairing difference. There's not one of those contracts says like, yeah, we can do it faster, or hey, we can do, we won't, I'm just looking for any difference at all.
No, there was nothing that was specifying anything.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I would go ahead and just make the motion, let's go ahead and accept Kilo Construction on this particular project. And then a little bit on the other one, is it the Vance Brothers? Yeah, Vance Brothers, we had expected them as well.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any further discussion?
I'm sure that yes, but we understand, but considering the situation.
I'm sure this isn't the first time they've dealt.
May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Skidmore?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton,
Yes.
and Mayor Allen.
And I vote yes, motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, DJ.
We will move on to item 11F.
Right-of-way use agreement for 133 South Cedar.
This is to approve a right-of-way use agreement with Legacy Homes of Ottawa LLC to permit a private sewer line in city right-of-way serving 133 South Cedar as no adjacent public sewer currently exists. And we have city manager Silcott presenting on this.
And this is a common type of occurrence that does raise its head from time to time in communities, not just across Kansas, but across the country, where oftentimes you will have in older parts of town service lines that are essentially feeding into pre-existing service lines as the development or the construction of the homes occurred. And that's essentially what you have here. This currently for modern, it's a vacant lot, and for our current connectivity standards and requirements, there's no direct access to the public sanitary sewer as it is on the block to the east. And so we've received this request from Legacy Homes to install a private sewer line through existing city-owned right-of-way to enable the construction of a single-family home. This does kind of formalize that arrangement. And again, the nearest access point is parcels adjacent there at 309, 311 East 2nd Street. So this is the parcel in question with the existing sewer line to the east and the existing sewer line to the west. And the current service line between those homes runs this way. So the easement, if there were to be a private one, would have to be here. This is a private service line that connects into this existing 8-inch clay main. And the this home, I believe, connects into this home's sanitary sewer line. So you've got a 4-inch going into a 4-inch. So you're flowing essentially 2 residents through one standard line. And we know that as this kind of develops, that at some point they will become separated and need to connect there. But for the sake of what we're looking at here today, and this is an illustration to show that the line would come out here, and then there would be a 98-foot extension adjacent to the sidewalk here, about where the parcel delineator is, to come out to serve that. And so this is kind of a one-off, but we know that there may be other times with which we'll need to do that. If we were to follow kind of best practices, what we would do is extend that main, which makes it cost prohibitive. And that's one of the alternatives that that we consider. So what we're doing is asking you to approve this use agreement to allow this installation and ongoing private use in a 4-inch line that's located within the right-of-way that will also be tagged and geolocated on our GIS system so that we'll know where it's at, and we will also be able to monitor that. And it will then kind of formalize this and also lets everyone know, and we'll have it applied to the deed, that it is the owner's responsibility to maintain that. And of course, at some point, if we ever extend the mains for whatever reason to the west, we could look at connecting at that point in time. So the city, again, retains all rights. So if we come through and need to widen the road or whatever in the future, we're able to do that. If we need to relocate that line for water or sewer or whatever, you know, we can do that for other municipal services. And again, they're indemnifying the city and binding this on all future property owners. There is no financial burden because we aren't constructing 2 additional manholes and putting in what would essentially be a 6 to 8 inch line to serve one home. And if we were to assess that onto the property owner, it makes that one parcel essentially undevelopable. So we felt that this is, a good approach to try and work TS, even though it is unorthodox. But it is also not unheard of. So with that, if there are no questions for staff, for the applicant, we would ask for you to approve the agreement and authorize the necessary signatures.
There was a house there before, so where did they? Their sewer line.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, so, it connected into the service line of this house, and then when they demolished it, they untangled that, and we would not like to see that go back there.
Yeah.
Is that common in town to have shared buildings?
And not just here, but in other older areas, it's not usually the way it's done, but it's.
I was gonna say, this is an example of someone walks in, and we're thinking, yes, how can we make this happen? So thank you all for making it, George. There you are. You've had to do this whole meeting, to get the last thing on the agenda, so appreciate your patience. I think it's a great example. So,
And I want to thank Director Neese and Director Sneeden and our Superintendent Justin Carey for their work on this and getting this across the board.
And on this, I'm assuming George already has, but is there anything in here for these cases to notify neighbors? Because obviously we are going through the right of way, but for most people, most intents and purposes, that's your yard. You know, when we just had fiber come through kind of issues in that right of way. Is that going to fall to us, or would that fall to the contractor to return those lawns or yards
Yeah,
back to the state?
We will work, but with the contractor to notify them, just, and also that there is about a 6-week settlement period as we go through there, so that what would be a mound initially does settle and then would come back through, but yes, as Director Neese said, that this line goes out and then connects in this way, so you've got kind of other homes doubling up and just kind of continuing to jump in line onto a single 4-inch. So if someone down the line causes a clog, it's backing up on the other properties too, so.
Madam Mayor, just so that the optics are correct here, I want to make sure that everybody knows that I will abstain from this vote as I am a contractor on this property. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm, leaning one way or the other.
And I'll, I should disclose this early. I had talked with George about this previously, but it in no way affects my decision regarding this item. Do we have any other questions on this? How would we like to proceed?
motion to approve this item in our agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? May I have roll call vote, please?
How do you vote, Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins abstaining, Mayor Pro Tem Clayton,
Yes.
Commissioner Skidmore,
Yes.
and Mayor Allen.
And I vote yes. Motion carries.
And I wanted to thank City Attorney Finch for actually drafting the agreement, because when you list people, you always leave one off. I apologize for that.
Thank you. Yep. We will move on to item 11G.
Consider tourism advertising funding request from Ottawa Main Street Association.
Consider a request from Ottawa Main Street Association for tourism funding to purchase television advertising on the Kansas City Station Fox 4. I believe Sarah is, Director of Main Street is online.
I believe we have this with you.
Oh, okay, and Wendy Lee, okay, there we go.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry Sarah couldn't be on today. In fact, they were digging down to the bottom of the barrel when they called me to do it, so you just stuck with me. First, I wanted to say thank you to City Manager Silcott for adding this to your agenda. I know it wasn't on your original agenda, but we wanted to let you know of something that just is transpiring that we just talked about at our board meeting on Monday. And we know that you like to have an item on your agenda at least twice before you're taking action. So we really aren't asking for an action today. We just wanted to share with you what is happening, and it's exciting, but there is some needed things. Yeah, go ahead and move to the slide. So Ottawa has been selected to be on the Channel 4 zip trips this summer, which gets a lot of awareness and a lot of just excitement that can be built from that, because it's on the station for weather during 7, 8, and 9, as well as some other press things that they do. So it's exciting, and we have that for sure. The reason that we're visiting with you, though, is because we have another opportunity that comes along when you have a zip trip. You can take advantage of the fact that they will have camera crews and other folks here and do some amazing marketing. And so we would be featured on July 25th. We don't know the others yet. But although we do know there's only 2 cities in Kansas that were selected for this year. You can go ahead and move to the next slide. These were going to be video clips. You keep going, of what has been done in the past with Gardner and others, just to kind of show you that it's inside, outside, kind of interesting things that would certainly lend themselves to attracting people to come to Ottawa. This is just an example that they did for Gardner. Sorry, I didn't plan a lot for this because I understood that we weren't going to have the video. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was saying. We were having issues earlier, so I'm glad we were able to get that.
yeah. Yeah, and Sarah probably knows more about it than I do. Once I heard we weren't going to, I wasn't too worried. But you can see that with those videographers, they're going to go around and feature various things that, of course, we're proud of in Ottawa, similar to what they've done in Gardner, Leavenworth, and I've forgotten the third city that's in this video. But it does give us an opportunity to really showcase Ottawa and the things we love about our community, as well as businesses. So this slide shows if we were to want to purchase, and I'm going to tell you that all of the bullets are the same except for this one right here where it says total of 36. So there would be at the weather, like I said, 2, 7, 8, and 9, we'd get logo advertisements brought to you by logo inclusion and digital display ads, which gets a very big number of digital display hits, and then a million impressions on the weather section. So clearly a lot of attention. The difference between option 1 and option 2 is really in this one. This first one shows 6 30-second commercials. Option 2, it's 3 30-second commercials. And really what we're here to do is we want to ask the city and the county to help us with the cost of this because it benefits the entire community. So as an example, in order to get to the 23,700 for the 6 commercials, this proposal shows Ottawa at 8, Franklin County at 8, Main Street 2,000, the Chamber 2,000, and then 18 businesses would pay the balance of that of 3,700, each one paying 206. You're the first one to have a presentation. None of this is set in stone at this point. That's just the proposal. This next one, as I said before, is just option 2. The only difference is the 30-second commercials. So instead of 36, you have 18. But the price is significantly different. It just is a matter of how many people we can feature. In this case, we'd only be able to feature 9 businesses. And so the board's recommendation is to go with the higher cost option, provided that we can have enough partners that would help us achieve that. So that is really the proposal. We wanted to have a chance for you to see it before we were asking you to vote on it next week. But we also wanted to give you an opportunity that if questions come to your mind right now, that we, even if I can't answer it today, that we are prepared to answer it for you next week. At this point, Sarah is on the schedule for the county for next Wednesday.
And Wendy, do you have a date when when's the deadline?
Yes, it has to be done by the 23rd, so there isn't much time. We literally only found out Monday. We're anticipating that because of the way May falls out, we really need to have the city and county on board by the 21st, so that we can go place the rest of the ad participation to be able to make a decision.
Wendy, could you provide some background as to Sarah's involvement with Kansas tourism and kind of representing Ottawa and Franklin County? Because we haven't had that kind of representation, and how we got this before us.
Sure. So Sarah has been kind of, has taken up the challenge that we didn't have a person that was necessarily being contacted by the state tourism office. And partially that's because Main Street and sometimes tourism conferences are held simultaneously. And so, for example, the Zip Trip is one thing. Another has been when she nominated some businesses for participation last summer for the family free entry to things. She's been participating on meetings to work with the soccer World Cup events. And she sees that because tourism doesn't have that same kind of outreach they did before, but a lot of that is focused then on our downtown and on some of our members, that for our retail business community, having more people come here to do their shopping and to come here for these events is key. And the Zip Trip really is focused on day trips that people can take out of Kansas City, short distances where they can go and spend a day and explore a series of options. And so that's what I can tell you. If I'm forgetting something, you should be sure to ask her that again next time.
Wendy, it's Eric. Hearing your voice and sitting in this room, it brings me back a few years. So thank you for being here.
She called me while I was traveling and I said, man, you must be at the bottom of the board list. So.
No, I'm glad you're here. Do you have any history on this, the Zip Trip from Fox 4? Like, have they done this before? And if so, what kind of feedback are they getting from other communities?
I can't answer that specific question. I can tell you this is their standard proposal for the Zip Trips, and that's really what they do. The Zip Trip, we are going to have that. The question is, can we capitalize on it with a bunch more views and a bunch more marketing? I will also tell you that something Sarah mentioned that's not in the slides is that once they produce those video clips, they're ours. So we can reuse them. We could pay for other opportunities for those to be aired. And so it does give us, whether it's on our webpage, the Main Street, or any of those businesses, it does give us an opportunity to keep showing Ottawa in a positive light.
I like that.
I agree. And I think that's specifically the reason I'm glad that you guys came this week, even though you need the answer by next week, is because that's a question I'd certainly like answered. You know, what kind of feedback they're getting from other communities on Zip Trip. I mean, I think it's a great idea, and certainly hopefully the county and businesses are on board too. But yeah, I'd like to hear some feedback.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Make a few calls and see what they're saying. And we do have, obviously, one of the things I considered was because we can monitor how much additional traffic comes in. I was sort of thinking we might be able to do a very pre and post impact with how many people came from out of town this summer after the airing of that.
Well, certainly, and a question that the businesses could ask also, you know, from if they know that the individuals from out of town, to see if they get any return on that investment too.
That's right. That's right.
Do we have any other questions? That it sounds like we want to hold this over till next week to discuss it a little bit further. Any other specific questions that maybe we want to have answered?
Wendy, you may have answered this. Do you know when Sarah was going to have the conversation with the county?
Next Wednesday.
Okay. And theirs is in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And ours
Yeah,
is in
they meet,
So
they
we,
meet at
yeah.
8 o'clock.
and it'll be, ours will be
could
right
have an-
after.
We could have an answer ahead of county.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Okay.
And Wendy, on that, with her, going to the county before us, say the county says no, say the county only offers a portion of that. Do you know what that would kind of look like? Or, with the total due, what that would potentially change?
Yeah, Paul or whoever, if you can go back up a slide so we can kind of see how this has been broken out. So we would have a choice then, and this is the full one, if the county doesn't participate at either the $4,000 or $8,000 level. I know there was conversation about having the businesses pay more, about seeking a particular few businesses that might have the wherewithal to write a larger check. But if both the city and the county elects not to participate, we don't think, from what I understand, we don't believe that the businesses can carry the whole thing when there's only 18 or 9 that would be featured. So that's why we wanted to move fairly quickly and why we appreciate so much being added to the agenda today. Because that's the
Yes.
whole.
Wendy, this is Mike. Just a quick question. So who's going to be soliciting the businesses? Will it be the chamber or Main Street or both?
Both. The chamber's still considering what they're going to do, but if we are both in for the same amount, then we both would go out there. And I think there's a couple of different ways, it's cracking eggs, but there's ways to get there. You just have to have several pathways. But what we first need to know is what would the city and county do? And then we'll represent to our businesses. We've already had a few represented on the board who have said that they would do this. But we know that there are others, and it would end up being sort of a first come, first served, but there's several things to be considered. If we want it to be for retail, then we obviously need to be sure that a certain number of them are represented for retail traffic. And it kind of depends. So I guess it depends on where the money comes from. If Franklin County wants to use their TG team funds and they want to see a hotel or a bed and breakfast featured, then maybe that's one of the things we are aware of. If the city says, hey, we're in for the amount, but we want to make sure we featured OMA, those all things would have to be identified and talked through.
Good. Yeah, Wendy, good to hear your voice. And even though you don't live here anymore, thank you for your continued involvement and investment in Ottawa.
Yeah, Main Street's an important board. I'm glad to be a part of it. And thank you for your support. We know Sarah has been doing a lot of hard work and taking opportunities like this. We've talked about zip trips as a community for years. I can tell you, I've had people stop me in Kansas City and say, how come you've never done that? So I appreciate the opportunity for us to be able to be featured.
Do you have
If
any
you
other
think of-
questions?
If you think of other
Go ahead.
questions, be sure to let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll reach out if we have any after this meeting and we'll hear from you guys again next week. Before we move on to comments by the city manager, we did have Daniel apply for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And if we want to make a decision on that real quick to get that off of our plate, we do have 2 openings on that board. One must live outside Ottawa city limits, but within 3 miles, and one must live inside city limits, and Daniel lives outside city limits, but within 3. Do we have any comments or concerns?
Applicants, or that's it?
I believe this was it so far, yeah. Yep.
I think Daniel will be a great addition to the BZA.
I think. Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve. I don't know, 11A, I guess is that, or to approve Daniel White's
Onto the board.
onto the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I think we're
That's
good.
extra territorial, extra terrestrial.
Extraterrestrial.
I read that one time. I said, wait a minute, where's he?
That's a whole different
That's a
board.
different-
That's a different. Yep.
Including
Thank you for applying, Daniel. Normally, like Laura would reach out, but you're here, so so we're good to go here. And I'm sure she'll reach out with dates and such. Thank you. We will move on to item 12, comments by our city manager.
We want to invite everyone out to some OMA events. Free music bingo on the nights listed of May 15th, June 19th, and July 16th from 7 to 8:30, with doors opening at 6:30. And obviously concessions, beverages will be available. Also would like to invite folks out to hear Mitch Holtis give an inspirational talk. It's being hosted by the OMA and our own Ottawa Recreation Commission, with a portion of those tickets going to help the ORC Summer Camp Scholarship Fund. And if you're old like me, you will remember him not so much as the voice of the Chiefs, but the voice of the Wildcats. So that's kind of a blast from the past. We would like to invite folks who are interested on May 24th at 10 a.m. to the southwest corner of the courthouse lawn for a presentation and plaque for a tree planting by our local chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. And, it's good to honor our upcoming independence semi-quincentennial event. So we hope you're able to join us. And then we have some current job openings. We have a grounds worker, seasonal customer service and development assistant, communication and outreach coordinator, maintenance worker, my apologies, seasonal grounds worker at the golf course, and a pro shop attendant as well. This past week, our water crews have continued prepping the city pool with our electric distribution, completing multiple pole and fuse holder placements and replacements. Warehouse has issued over 300 parts and processed over 6,000 parts, with our street crews continuing their diligence of patching 576 potholes, utilizing 22 tons of asphalt. And we did complete recently the splash pad seasonal prep with the de-winterization, and also focusing on all of our park facilities. So we are currently working hard on our 26 budget prep for the upcoming review by the City Commission. And so we have currently one RFP out, and that is due on May 22nd and will be presented to the Commission for consideration on the May 28th Commission meeting for the website design, development, and hosting. And then our tentative agenda items that we have forthcoming are listed here. And if anyone's interested, we'll have the agenda posted as soon as we finish our compilation of the packet. And you can see it's rather extensive, so we will look forward to addressing that with the commission.
Could you just briefly back up to the Daughters of the American Revolution, the tree? Yep, there. Just so everybody knows, I had received an email that they had sent the invitation out, but the date was changed to May 23rd at 12:30 to combine with the Veterans Memorial at the courthouse. So that was changed to May 23rd at 12:30. Just to update.
We'll get that updated.
Very good. Okay. We'll move on to comments by the governing body. We'll start with Commissioner Crowley.
No comment.
Commissioner Kaler,
None at this time.
Commissioner Skidmore,
Just to confirm with the heat coming on today, it's flash back.
Tomorrow, so bring the kiddos out.
All right.
kids, Mike, not you. You
Yeah,
cannot.
okay. I can answer.
You're welcome, Ms. Park.
I can have private children. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Clayton.
First of all, I want to congratulate Mr. Silcott on being able to pronounce semi-quincentennial. I saw it on the board and I was waiting to see if he was gonna try, and so now I can say it thanks to you. So I read it and I was like, I'm gonna mess that up. Monday, I was fortunate for part of the time, I had a board meeting to attend the police awards. And see our police chief up on stage, and it was really cool to see all the families of the police officers. And, you know, kind of see the way they interact with their families. They're there with their wives and kids a lot of times, or different people like that. And then just the things that you hear about that they do and how they truly serve the community. So that was cool to be a part of. Congratulations early to all the graduates for this weekend. My weekend wasn't busy enough, so now it is, with all the graduation parties to go to. And then congratulations to the OU women's flag football team, who are 5-time consecutive national champs. And we are beginning work kind of with that as well, for the Parade of Champions this fall again, to kind of highlight Ottawa University and hopefully all of the local high schools if the weather's cooler this year and high schools are able to participate. So just kind of a plug for that this fall, to be looking out for that, and what a cool thing to have in the community.
Very good, and I have no further comments. We will move on to announcements. We have a May 21st, 2025 City Commission meeting at 10 a.m. at City Hall, May 28th, 2025 City Commission meeting at 4 p.m. at City Hall, a June 2nd special call meeting at 4 p.m. at City Hall, and June 4th City Commission meeting at 7 p.m. at City Hall. And seeing no other business before us, I will adjourn.